Today we're doing an Emperor's Pathway May update. Hello everyone, I'm SBJ and welcome back to Emperor's Path. Today we are going to be doing a small update, just talking about the things that are going on Emperor's Pathway. If you don't know, Emperor's Pathway is my layout that is upstairs in my loft. Over the last few months I haven't done loads of updates on what I've been doing. I've mainly been focused on my desk. So what we're going to do, we're going to go upstairs into the loft, we're going to have a look around, I'm going to show you the bits we've worked on, and then we're going to talk about what's going to be happening going forward.
So here we are, we're back up in the loft to have a look at the layout. We'll start in the centre bit, because that's the part that's always been my biggest love of this layout. It's the part that has a lot of working parts, but also it's got the station, it's got the shuttle system, and it's got the opportunity, or at least the ability that if I wanted to do some shunting. So with this particular section in mind, one thing that I've really wanted to work on is the fact that I barely use the platform 3 sidings when I'm doing running sessions. I tend to do it that I just run trains on platform 1 and 2 and just have them running around, and that's the part that so far has been giving me the most amount of joy when I'm running trains in here. And I wanted to try and work out a way that would hopefully fix this for me, the idea that I'm not using this particular section so much. Now, one of the biggest problems for me was that the curves down on the far end, down here, the inner two just don't seem to work, or they don't give me joy running trains through them. Now this is where I'm going to have to start deviating from my initial plan of everything being almost exactly like Fratton. And what I'm basically going to be doing is possibly cutting off the ability to run trains through platform 3, so I can sort of do, if there's a train at platform 1 or 2, you can put one into platform 3. And I think I'm going to give up on having that idea, or at least having that ability, because I've got a nicer idea, which means that it gives me the opportunity to run different things, or it's not going to be a complete waste if I don't run things down there. So let's go and have a look, and we'll see what the plan is moving forward. So this section for me, I think what I'm going to do, and you can obviously leave your thoughts in the comments down below if you agree or disagree, is I think I'm going to try and cut the track here on platform 3. Now the reason for that is it means that I can bring in DMUs and EMUs into that particular siding, do what they need to do and go back. Or likewise, if I'm running some sort of charter train where there's a loco at the front and a loco at the rear, they can come into that siding and still go back out again. And it means that I have a little bit more operational value to that particular siding. It also means I can store coaches there and bits waiting for the next train to turn up and things like that. So with that in mind, it takes out that sort of third loop, if you will, that only goes from here all the way around to the tunnel entrance as it goes off into the fiddle yard. And what that leaves me to do is I'm able to basically clear that particular section all the way down to the points, which go all the way around here. So if we follow round, it goes all the way down here. Spoiler for the next part of the video. And it sort of sits down in this little valley bit behind that bit of polystyrene. I need to work out what I'm going to do with that. But I feel that by taking out this particular curved bit here, at least, what it does is it opens up the ability for me to put a length of straight track on the end of this point bit here, so that that still functions as I wanted it to, where the diesels can come in and it gives them the opportunity to shunt into a different siding, especially if they are coming in and placing themselves with, like the idea was to bring the Royal Mail train in here, train uncouples there, goes up there, and then comes back into one of these sidings. And it gives me that little bit of ability to, it gives me something to play with. without it being as complicated as it previously was. And the reason for that is this particular curve here. Although it is a second radius curve, I still struggle with a lot of my locos actually going on there and not derailing, which is obviously a big problem. Hence why that particular rail still hasn't been ballasted. So my plan at the moment is to get rid of the curve that goes around here on both the third and fourth lines, put a buffer stop there so that the DMUs, EMUs, or particular diesel can go and sit into that siding as need be. I don't know if there's an ability for me to put maybe a point in on this particular, on platform 3, so that they can come into this yard area, as you will. That's something I'll have to think about. But I want to effectively make it so that then the focus as this goes around here is mainly on those two mainline sections, which is what I want. So let's go and have a look at the point work on this section here, and we can talk about what my plan is to sort of maybe get rid of this. Okay, so with this point area here, if I'm taking out the 2 lines on 3 and 4 away from there, that potentially means that I don't necessarily need these points here. Now, for an operational point of view and the sheer amount of time I'd put into putting the point motors in, I kind of want to keep it. But it's that thing of, well, what do I do with it? Because if I'm really honest, I don't know. It'll probably be that I will take off and remove the 2 curves down there. And for the meantime, these 2 points and these 2 points will probably remain. I don't have to keep them though. And what I could do, which is annoying because as you can see there's some ballast drying here and it's one of those things that I've only just sort of really thought about, is I can effectively take out this point and this point and this point and this point. And then that means that I have a lot less operational woes, if it were. I don't have to worry about locos derailing on these points because that can be a very real problem. And it means that I literally only have to worry when I'm running the trains on the main line through and through, that I only have to worry about lines 1 and 2. But this wall section that I've been building here, I can move it in so it looks even more like a canal, makes the bridges more easy to do, because that's another thing that I've been holding off on. So let me know in the comments down below if you think I should get rid of the points when I get rid of the curves, or do I leave them in here for now, they're not doing any harm, and just run trains as normal, and then sort these out later. Now obviously I've got sidings down here which were meant to be just so that I can store excess coaches and wagons and stuff like that, that don't necessarily always get run on the layout. However, from an operational point of view, I feel that this is just a waste. Like, this whole area is a waste, and I could maybe narrow it down so I can do more scenery on this top part here. So whilst we're down here, let's go and have a look at the scenery work that I've been working on. So one thing that I've been wanting to do for quite some time is actually get some scenery put in for the layout so that it wasn't just ballast and track. Not that there's anything wrong with just ballast and track, but I wanted something else that I could look at, and something that when it came to taking photos and things like that, I'd actually have an area that I could do that in. So I started working on what in Portsmouth would be the old canal. And basically there was a Portsmouth canal that lasts only 4 years, and they basically put the train lines running through part of that old canal once it leaves Fratton on its way to Portsmouth and Southsea. Now, because I wanted maximum space for the actual track and I wasn't that fussed about the scenery, I didn't have a lot of space to play with here. So what I did is I went to 3DK. If you don't know what 3DK is, it's a company that specialises in print your own model railway buildings and like line side kits and stuff like that. But what he also does is he has lots of extremely low relief buildings that you can print out, such as these factory kits. Now this is 2 kits that I've printed off twice for one and one for the other. Now when painting the back scene, I used initially for the blue this Wilkinson's tester pot of Cloudless. I've still got about a third of the pot left after doing all these sections up here and just on that corner bit. You can see I started. I'm going to work on that a little bit later. And then I used the Grey Whisper by Wilkinson's or Wilco, for the clouds, and I just used a sponge, and I just constantly did the same area with a sponge. Once it had dried, went back over it again with the sponge to create that sort of cloud effect, and then that way it wasn't too garish that the clouds were there, but it also showed that there was something. Then, once that had all dried, I glued on all of the building sections there to give the illusion that there is something running along there. Now, in Portsmouth, now at least, it is all flats, and as you get towards Portsmouth and Southsea main station, there's a few houses as well. But I wanted to make it look a little bit more industrial, because that's what was available to me, and I quite like it. I'm really happy with the kits in themselves. I'll put a link in the description below for the 3DK stuff so that you can have a look at it. What I'll do is I'll also throw up some pictures, some close-ups of this as well. And then in front of the back scene, I had some corrugated cardboard left over from IKEA packaging. All came in exactly the same thickness and exactly the same height, which worked perfectly because I basically put that in front of the backboard to create the wall effect. And then once again, I've used the 3DK brick set to create the walls of what would have been the old canal. I put that all in, and I filled any of the gaps using polyfiller, and that's at the bottom and the sides as well where they will join, and then use the airbrush to sort of weather it in and make it look a little bit less conspicuous, or more inconspicuous, one or the other. And that's come out really nicely. Then I used some card. Whenever you get a paper pad or anything like that, you get that thick piece of card at the back of it for when you're finished. I had loads of those left over, and all I did was I cut them to size and used those as the concrete top to run along with that, which basically acts as the road. So on the actual real life road, this is now a cycle lane that basically goes from Fratton to Portsmouth and Southsea almost the whole way. And it's quite a nice little road bit, but because I put some factories and stuff in there as well, there is enough room for some cars and some lorries to go there if they need to. Then above that, there is some of the Pico fencing. It's the Great Western stuff. It comes in black, and all I did was I quickly airbrushed it with a light grey, and then I used a pin vise to drill holes to mount it into the cardboard, and I think that's worked really nicely. As a little bit of a test as well, I've used some of these grass tufts, and I've used them along some of the edging parts. Now this section over here is actually meant to be roofing sort of corrugated steel, but I thought it looked quite nice as some of the steel walls that people put up around some of the dodgy areas that you can go to. Not all dodgy areas, but that's where I've seen it, and basically use it as a makeshift fencing so people can't see in. So what I've done is this dodgy factory area over there has got the corrugated fencing up out the front of it, just to add a little bit, try and add a little bit more depth in there as well. And you can see down here I've actually cut a few misshapes out as well that sort of sit at the front from where maybe foxes or badgers or anything like that have created holes where they've been scurrying in and rummaging through the massive bins that they probably have in there as well. And yeah, I'm really happy with how this area has turned out. It adds a very nice dynamic to the area for running trains. I just need to get on now and fill in all the bottom sections and start adding some rubbish, some grass, some foliage, like overgrown areas, some weeds and stuff like that. Now where it ends here is where I'm roughly going to be adding a nice bridge section to hopefully sort of mask how, I say tight the curve is, but it's technically a 4th and 5th radius curve on that corner. But that's what I'm going to be doing, is hopefully getting over there to just sort of mask that area, as there's a nice big bridge at Fratton that sort of covers up some of the dirty areas as well. Now for the supports of the bridges over here, I'm going to be using these girders. Now this is an old Airfix kit, but basically it is for a girder bridge, and I'm basically going to be putting that down in this section to act as the girder supports for the bridges that go across the top. So that's my next sort of big project over here, as well as sort of sorting out all the foliage and making it look a little bit more real. Now, as I said, with that, I might be getting rid of the 4 points that are sat from line 2 to 3, 3 to 4, because they're not needed. I don't necessarily need these sidings. Please leave a comment down below if you have any ideas of what I should do with this area. If you think it needs to be left here because it gives me a nice amount of storage, then let me know. So on the main section here at the station, what I've also done is when I built the stations, I put down some old slats to basically reinforce the underside of the station platform so that I could just lay some plasticard on top of it and it would be pretty solid. Now, when I did platform 1, I didn't measure basically, and it meant that I had a massive overlap on both ends. Now, when I did that, I said it doesn't matter because I'll be able to do this. But then I found that when my class 50 ran on the outbound platform, so the far side, one of the ladders used to get caught on the edge of the platform and would basically grind along the edge of the platform, and then when it came off the end it would go click and go back down again. Now obviously I don't want that kind of wear and tear, and I'm going to be working on making that a little bit better as well. And whilst I was doing that, the heat has caused the platforms to expand a little bit and basically caused some of them to sort of bow upwards. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to get platform 1 out and redo that. So I'm going to cut the boards to the right size. So I'm going to be working on platform 1 soon, and then hopefully get that back installed, and then that'll look a little bit nicer. Now, if you're wondering why there's only the branch line train running today, it's simply because I've just glued and ballasted certain areas where I was trying to touch up from where there were some sleepers missing. So because of that, it means I'm not running any trains today. But whilst I was up here, I wanted to make sure that I got a little video sorted so we could talk about what's going to be happening with the layout. Now, this end of the layout hasn't actually been touched at all. I thought in my head that I was going to start working on the embankment at the back there to sort of hopefully try and make that look a little bit more exciting. So the last thing that we did over here was actually putting in the retaining walls on the other side, which obviously is one of those things I don't get to see at all, but I know that it is there. And hopefully one day we'll be able to start running some more trains around here, and I'll get some more running shots from over here. But yeah, there's nothing that's been done over here. I've sort of focused on the other side layout, and I wanted to try and get some sort of semblance and some sort of thing completed in scenery terms, and hopefully you'll agree that we've definitely got somewhere with it. Now, if you've been following me on Instagram, you'll have noticed that all of this has been in place for quite some time. I just haven't had a chance to come up and do a little layout update, really. So that's my thoughts. Let me know what you think about the idea of cutting off platform 3 and removing those curves down there. As I say, they're not used, and I don't feel like they're adding anything, and it just means that I'll be moving a little bit further away from the idea of basing it on Fratton, but the roots are still going to be there. So yeah, let me know what you think. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave a comment down below to let me know, or let me know anything that you want to see in the future. If you have enjoyed it, please like the video as well, and if you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe. Thank you very much for watching. My name's SBJ, and I'll be back soon.